Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 21 of the Next Gen Bets podcast.
It's a
We
nice
are
easy
in our,
one.
what'd you say?
Nice easy one.
Nice, easy one. We are in our post Super Bowl era now. We have officially passed the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl came, it went. We're going to talk about that. And then now we have to rediscover ourselves outside of football, but I think we'll do just fine at that. But
Did
officially started that.
did anyone enjoy the Super Bowl? I feel like that was one of the bad Super Bowls.
It was rough. I think if
They
you were wanting
usually,
a good football game, it was rough.
yeah,
Those hate watchers probably had a great experience watching that game. Um, but if you're looking for a competitive, nail-biting Super Bowl like we've had in the past, that was not the one that you wanted. Um, so
even hate watching. It was over in the second quarter.
I feel, yeah, but I feel like that's what every hate watcher wants.
Yeah, but I don't know. Me personally, I'd rather see the team I want to lose like have hope and then get destroyed at the end.
Yeah, but
More enjoyable to watch them suffer, like excitement then suffer more
no, yeah,
than
that is
straight up
fair.
killed. But
It depends on how much you hate the team that you're watching and
yes, yes,
how bitter you are. I feel like that kind of determines how bad you want that game to be.
yeah.
Um,
There is zero
that's pretty
entertainment.
rough. The game was not competitive for the entirety of the game. From the opening drive, or no, it wasn't. It might not have been the opening drive, but from the first quarter, we knew that Philadelphia was winning that game. Uh, unless there's some catastrophic failure from Philadelphia and they gave the game back to Kansas City. But they didn't. It was just an absolute dominant performance from the Eagles. They didn't let off the gas. They just full power. The Chiefs could not stop the Eagles in any way, shape, or form, and they could not get their offense going at all until the second half. So it was an unexpected outcome if you watch the first half of the game.
I think the most entertaining part of the Super Bowl was trying to explain to my father what Kendrick was teasing at during the halftime show.
Yeah, yes, yes.
That was
Go
really
ahead.
all that happened that was somewhat entertaining.
Yeah, there was a lot of buzz about that halftime show. I think there's a lot of buzz about everyone. Everybody talks
Because
about.
there was no buzz about the game. The game was god awful.
Yeah, so I think the most eyes were on the halftime show, and then after that halftime show, it was kind of like the game's on, but are we watching as and seriously as we should be? Probably not. That's kind of how that went. But you know, we did have bets for that game though, so we can talk about those bets from the game.
So we predicted this game pretty spot on as far as what uh, we said was going to happen. We just had the details of it, I guess off. So we said the Eagles would pop off in the first half, and they did. We had Philly over 12 and a half team points in the first half. That hit uh relatively easily. I think early second quarter they went up 14 nothing. Um and then they would have went up earlier if they didn't miss a fourth down conversion in the first quarter. And then we had Philly first half money line three-way, which was plus money, hit that as well. And then going into the second half, we had Kansas City minus 1.5 second half spread. That was questionable at the start of the third quarter when Philly kept adding on points, but then they got there. And then Chiefs over 1.5 second half touchdowns. They ended up getting three, so that hit nice as well. Um, and then to the disappointments, Jalen Hurts, we had his under on pass yards. This one, it was close for most of it. I think he ended up hitting it by 10. And but the way he started, you just knew it wasn't gonna get there, even with the blow and him not having to throw at the end of the game. He still got there, I think, in the third quarter. And then under 250 and a half for Patrick Mahomes. He gets to 257 with that 50-yard touchdown to Xavier Worthy for absolutely no reason at the end of that game there. That I believe hit the over as well. Or did it not? The over. Or no, it's the second touchdown it did. My bad. And then we liked Mahomes' rush yards, which I believe the line was set at 25 and a half, and he got 25 exactly. But we took the all over 40, so that didn't really get there anyway for us. We were going for the plus money, but I feel bad for anybody that hit him over 25 and a half yards because I want to say that's what the original line was, and he finished with 25 yards exactly. And then, like we said, no one's tends to rush for over 100 yards in the Super Bowl. So we hated on Saquon, even though he was great all season, and that worked out well. Saquon didn't come close to his 110 or even 114. The line was at some places. So that hit easily as well. So I believe all in all, we ended up I believe a half unit at the end of the game. Oh, and then we had Jalen Hurts to score a touchdown, and we got a tush push for the first score of the game. So that was great. If you did it on FanDuel, you got a $41 bonus. Um, that was the split of people who had, I think it was 2.5 million split for Jalen Hurts scoring the first touchdown among everybody that did it. So I ended up getting $41 out of that. So threw that into a nice futures parlay. So see if we can make some money in a year from now, I guess, off of what Jalen Hurts did on Sunday.
Perfect. Um, Numbers like that were not very common on Super Bowl Sunday. I gotta start saving the post, but I saw a post earlier today and it said that this was the most profitable Super Bowl for Nevada sports books at
I
least.
saw that. They
But
had
yeah,
22 million and they had like 40 million less wagered.
yeah, they had this was not nearly even this wasn't even close to the handle was not as close as last year's. Like last year's handle was insane. This year's was not as high, but they profited way more on this Super Bowl. So it was a very profitable Super Bowl
Which
for the
I kind of found surprising, to be honest with you.
well, I
Um,
think a lot of people were riding that Chiefs three-peat.
I know Chiefs had a lot of futures, but I heard reports that Eagles were getting most of the money on the money line. But then usually when games go over, people do well. But I guess Saquon going under probably hurt a
I
lot of
think
people.
Saquon going under killed a lot of
Both
people.
quarterbacks passing over and then the game over, I would have thought they public would have been on that. Usually
Yeah.
public's on overs.
Yeah, normally everybody hammers the overs, but that was something pretty interesting, especially considering how well we did Super Bowl Sunday. So that's something we can pat ourselves on the back for, considering how everybody else did. But
We
overall,
predicted the game perfectly, but I we kind of just had we didn't think the first half blowout, and we had Kansas City coming back from behind and winning in the second half, not getting boat raced in the first half. So that's why we did the bets the way we did. So it ended up working out for us, but we didn't hit Kansas City money line, obviously. So not a huge profit day, but a nice little win when everybody else was down, I guess.
yeah, that you know what? That always matters because, like I said earlier in the year, before we went on a massive losing streak for some reason at the end of the year, but profit's profit. You know, you can't complain about it. So that was good. Um, And that's how we're gonna wrap up that football season, you know. So, and on the high note, it kind of sucks that football season's already over. Feels like just yesterday I was hoping it would start sooner. And we're right back to doing that again. But that's how it is. That's the cycle of life.
Now we get to really move on and dial in on some draft stuff, off-season stuff.
Yep,
I almost think April is a more exciting month for football than February. February, you just kind of got one game, just the Super Bowl. Where
yep.
April, we'll get major trades. We already saw Myles Garrett request a trade. So we saw Cooper Kupp talk about getting traded. Garrett Wilson is believed to want to trade. Aaron Rodgers isn't returning to the Jets. So a lot
Adams
of
will likely
interesting
leave.
stuff to get going on in
And
this
then
month.
mock drafts are heating up as well. Everybody's starting to talk about the draft now that the season's over. Starting to look at what teams we think or who we think will go to what team and whatnot. So it's ramping up. A lot of speculation this time of year, but that's good for the content. That's good for stuff to talk about. It's good to talk about the speculation, what we think will happen, what could happen, potential landing spots, and what you know. Um, so we'll see what happens there, but the games themselves have come to a close. So
I've been arguing for the Dolphins to draft Jalen Milrow on some Dolphins fan pages. So it's always fun to banter with your fellow fans of your favorite team this time of year.
yeah, exactly. You
Fun
know,
thing.
I feel like I can't really relate to that on an NFL standpoint, but I can collegiately. Um, But like that is kind of what this time of the year is for. You can think about all the different things that your team could do, the changes that you can make, what you need to fill, the spots that need to be filled on your team that could bring you to that next level. Especially for it may be a little bit less exciting this year, but for those teams that struggled this year, they have those high draft picks. They can look forward to potential superstars coming their way, which is awesome. And exciting for some fan bases, but the Dolphins aren't incredibly high. What are they? They're like nine.
13.
13? Okay, I was gonna say 13, but I don't know why I thought nine first. Uh, So they're 13, so they're almost in the middle of the pack. So like they'll get a good pick, but it's not that top five that everybody looks at. But we'll see. We'll talk about it though. You guys will hear about it from us. Trust me. Trust me about that.
Yeah, I think this is a good, not to get too much into the draft, but I think this is a good draft. Any draft that like the quarterbacks I feel like aren't valued crazy high, the rest of the draft ends up being really good because teams are going to reach up for a quarterback and then it's going to be like, how did this player fall to six? Well, it's because three teams jumped up to get quarterbacks. It's rumored that the Jets might jump up to try to get a quarterback. So then you're going to have Travis Hunter, Will Howard, or not Will Howard, Will Johnson fall, um, players like Abdul Carter fall, and it's like, how did you get the best defensive end in 3 years? But how did you get the best DN in the NFL at pick seven? It's because well, you had idiot teams jump up to get a quarterback, and then that allows um, just a really great player to fall, maybe a receiver to fall that turns out to be really good. We've seen it in the past. I think this year will be no different because it seems like teams are going to do something stupid to try to get a quarterback just to get a quarterback.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks, and there's not that many quarterbacks. So that causes a bit of an issue when you got to do that. Um, Honestly, I wouldn't say there's any like we've had classes in the past where there's like, okay, that's like the talent. Like this year for this past season, for example. I mean, you had Caleb Williams, who I didn't think too highly of, even before he had this season. But then you had like Jaden Daniels. He obviously showed himself. You have a lot of elite talent. And then you also have like previous drafts, obviously, CJ Stroud. So
I
like,
don't I don't understand the need to, pick top five for a quarterback. Um, like Jalen Hurts has now been to two Super Bowls. He's won one. Brock Purdy's been to one, been close twice.
Lamar,
Jalen Hurts, what?
Lamar,
Who? What?
Lamar Jackson, he got
Oh,
drafted like 31 or
yeah, yeah,
30.
but they haven't been to the Super Bowl. I mean, like, just
Yeah, but
saying
I'm
it.
just saying like he's won two MVPs. He's an elite
Yeah, yeah, but
quarterback.
my point is, it doesn't have to be the best player on your team. Lamar's the best player on his team.
Oh yeah, okay. I
But
didn't let
like,
you get to your point. That's on
yeah,
me.
yeah. Jalen Hurts, second round pick. Brock Purdy, obviously the last pick in the draft. Like it build the team and the defense and the skill positions around the quarterback and mainly the line to make the quarterback better. You don't have to have the quarterback be Jesus Christ.
Well, I think
Like
we've talked about this before, and we'll definitely get
yeah,
into this big time when we go into deep into the draft. But it's just ridiculous how teams rebuild, and it's like, I have obviously no say and I'm not a GM, but if I were a GM, like I would not draft a quarterback to a team that is dog shit because fun fact, you're gonna have a dog shit quarterback.
yeah.
Or he's gonna play bad because he's not gonna have anything around him. Like I hate Caleb Williams, but like I think half of the reason he's so bad is because well not even he's not even so bad. The half of the reason he didn't have an insane season like some of the other quarterbacks in his class did is because of the lack of talent protecting him. And like and then
Yeah.
they're
They do have a better defense and
yeah,
receivers than
they do
most,
have good
but
wideouts.
they
It's
do not
just
have a
the lack
good
of
line.
protection.
They're
Yeah.
in a gauntlet of a division,
Yeah.
which that's another thing I feel like people don't look at. But like it's got to be easier to draft everybody else than the quarterback. Like to just take best available, have it fall into your lap. Like Jalen Carter just fell into the Eagles' lap when it wasn't a super need for them at that time in that draft. And obviously it works out now, where you get like the Panthers trading everything they have to get Bryce Young, and then you have nothing around the kid, and he's just out there dying,
Yeah.
really.
And then
So
you put it on him. It's his fault. It's not the fact that you have absolutely nobody around him. It's the fact that he's not acting like Superman, doing unheard of
yeah,
shit. Like even CJ Stroud, he had people around him his rookie season, if you think about it. Like he had some really good wideouts his rookie season. Their defense was good, their line was good. Like he had talent around him, which made it so his rookie season was very, he was able to have a good rookie season. I'd say
and
the
then
same
they
could
lose
be
the
said with
line, and he
Jaden Daniels.
struggled.
Jaden
So
Daniels has been able to have a good rookie season because he has good players around him. So it's like
yeah, they
it's
did a lot this offseason, Washington.
yeah, exactly. So like it all comes full circle. You can't change a team overnight with a single player. I know the quarterback is the most important player on your field, but like it's not. You can't expect your quarterback to change the way that your team performs season long, like all season long. Maybe here and there he'll get some wins for you when he, with a terrible team, but he's not going to consistently win and take you to the playoffs without anything around him.
And then if you're a GM, I have to do some research on this, but it seems like you last a lot longer if you build a good team. And it's like, oh well, this wasn't my quarterback that's making us lose. Versus if you draft a quarterback that's your guy and then he ends up being bad, you get shown the door. Like John Lynch in San Francisco, he drafted Trey Lance, who was awful, and they moved on from him already. But because he built the rest of the team up, no one's questioning his job really. Where you get guys every year that oh the quarterback is bad, you got to go. So
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see some teams do it right, but we see a lot of teams, like especially obviously the number one pick. Normally, they just always fuck it up. It seems like, and that's why, like it's just you see these guys that are elite in college that suck in the NFL, and that's how it works. The NFL is a different league, but it's not all because they were just, they're not just duds in the NFL all the time. I think a lot of the time it has to do with what's around
I
them.
feel like they scout too much off of like some stupid number that they like,
Hmm.
instead of just watching them in college.
Yeah,
I mean, Will Howard kind of goes along to what we were just saying. Like, if you build a team around him, the quarterback's going to look great. Will Howard did look great, but now you hear all these reports in the draft, like, oh, him and Kyle McCord have good spin rates of the football. It's like, are we serious? We're not looking for like arm side run on Baseball Savant, like it's a starting pitcher that we're trying to turn into an elite eighth inning reliever, like a failed starter into a reliever. Like, it's a quarterback. You need him to be accurate. It doesn't matter how fast he spins the football if it's 10 feet above the receiver and it's going to get picked off by the safety every time. Like, why are we like looking at ball speed? We look at hand size all the time. Like, just watch the guys play, watch them do their combine, see how their footwork is, see how they do the drills, see what's missing that you can, teach them to make them better. Not like the spin rate is not what separates you from winning or losing a Super Bowl. It's just absolutely ridiculous half the
yeah.
time reports come out. Or your hand size. That's definitely what makes you win or lose Super Bowls. If you got small hands, you can't win a Super Bowl.
Well,
But
and then
just
also that test that they make them take. I don't know, I forget what it's called, but like that fucking, it's like I guess it's
yeah,
comparable to like an IQ test.
yeah.
And CJ Stroud did terrible on it, and they're like, oh, he's not going to be a good quarterback. He did bad on this test, and it's
Yeah,
like.
which is stupid. Like, you can teach him that stuff. You can't
Well,
teach the dude
it's
football
not even that.
IQ.
It's like they don't need to know fucking common sense shit. That's not their job. Their job, like CJ Stroud might not be like super intelligent and all the other bullshit, but he can read a fucking defense. Like when you talk football to CJ, he knows what the hell he's talking about. That's what you need in a
You also
quarterback. You need
you
a
don't need to
quarterback that's gonna
read a
pick apart a
defense.
defense.
You don't have to read a defense half the time if you can just flick the ball 60 yards off your back foot the way Stroud can.
No, well, yeah, but like you like you want somebody that
Oh
can
yes, yeah, no, I agree. But if
dissect the
like
defense
my
and
point is, if he's struggling to read the defense, 2.5 seconds into his read, he can just chuck the ball up to Nico Collins, and that's your play. And
yeah,
that's a pretty good play, whether he catches it or draws PI or something.
yeah,
Versus like the Dolphins, if Tua can't read the play, we're absolutely screwed because he can't scramble and he can't throw a really good jump. We don't have jump ball receivers for him to throw to either. But like someone like Stroud or even Anthony Richardson gets this, like you can improvise. Some quarterbacks can't, so the brain matters, but who cares how smart the guy is if he can do the stuff Lamar does?
yeah, exactly.
You don't need him to read the defense in the pocket if he can run around for 12 seconds and do whatever he wants, really, because nobody can tackle him.
Precisely.
Stuff like that bothers me because if you watched any bit of college football, you would have known he was a top 10 pick that year.
Yeah. And I mean the same could be said about like for example, like I think with Caleb Williams, his senior season said a lot about him as a quarterback, you know what I mean? Like the year before when he won the Heisman, he was amazing, he was insane, his team won, they did crazy shit. But you look at him his last year in college, they were shit. And watching him play on a team that wasn't good tells you way more than watching him on a team that's good. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
in my opinion, you learn a lot more about somebody when they're in that kind of situation than you do when they're 11
He,
and 2 or whatnot. And
that's
this
why
overlooked all that bullshit.
Yeah, I was really high on Shador and Cam Ward, like for those reasons, because I thought they were doing really well with not great teams. But then obviously Cam Ward losing to Georgia Tech and Syracuse at the end of the year, that rubbed me the wrong way because all you had to do was win one of those games to get into the playoff. I guess get in the AC championship, but that would have led to the playoff. And then for Shador, it was like impressive how he responded after how bad they were the year before and like how much of a beating he takes. But then all they had to do to make the Big 12 championship was beat Kansas on the road and Kansas was bad and playing at not their home stadium. They're playing at where the Chiefs play because of renovation. So like there's no like, environment to deal with. And they got absolutely killed. And I was like, oh, maybe they can make a comeback and I'll be impressed with Shador. And I was watching it. I remember because I was in a car ride watching it on my phone and he just kept getting worse and worse. He like threw a pick, I think at the end or got sacked or something, and just killed the comeback. But like stuff like that is what makes your, but I think it matters versus like what we said, your combine stats and all this other garbage.
I mean, and I think like this isn't applicable to Cam Ward. Cam Ward doesn't fall under this for me, but like something that I feel like is and like that Caleb Williams has in common with Shedeur Sanders is that they're very like not flashy, but they just kind of want to be the center of attention. And that's like one of those things where I feel like it's just not like like you're a fucking football player, play football. It doesn't I don't give a fuck what watch you have on your wrist in the middle of a game
Yeah,
against
yeah.
a conference opponent. I don't give a shit what you got to do to some fucking dumbass in the end zone after you score. Like like I don't care what you're driving to class on a Monday. You know what I mean? None of that shit matters to me. It's play fucking football and win games and do what you're supposed to. Like Caleb Williams was driving like a fucking Ferrari or a Lamborghini or some shit on his senior year, and it's like, oh my God, like
He did good winning games they shouldn't have won his junior year.
yeah, he did in his junior year, and then he didn't do it in his senior year. And then like Shedeur, they did have a great turnaround. Shout out to Colorado, but it's just like, those
They were
games
right
they
there.
should not have lost. They
It's
lost.
like the old like when a team does too well early on in a rebuild and then they have like the expectation to keep it up, but they don't meet it because it was like fake. That's basically what Colorado was this year. Like they
Yeah,
should have been as good as they were, but they had a chance to be really good and they blew it in a way they shouldn't have blew it.
yeah, they did.
Uh,
And it's just like, come
so
on, dude.
rubs
It's
me the
what you
wrong
get to
way.
see. Yeah, no, I get frustrated seeing that kind of shit. But
If you're gonna over exceed the expectation, you can't then drop back down at the end and be like, well, we beat what you thought originally.
yeah. Well, and then also like fail to meet that mark to a shitty team that you should have beat at your current
Yes.
expectations. Like they should have beat Kansas no matter if they were exceeding expectations or not. Like the Kansas just wasn't great.
Like Miami fans, I'm sure would have taken the 10-2 if you told them 10-2 before the season. But if you
Yeah,
told
but
them
then
it
you
was
saw them go
8-0,
undefeated and you're like, whoa,
yeah,
like yeah, they're 8-0 or whatever. The best
yeah,
offense in
then yeah.
college. And it's just like like as somebody who's not a Miami fan, I sat there and watched every game and I went, that's fraudulent. Like they are fraudulent.
Yeah, we were waiting for them to lose,
I
and
was
then they
waiting for
did.
them to lose every week. But
Like
as
the
a
Cal
Miami
game, they
fan,
should have
I'm sure
lost.
you're like, oh my God, we're fucking unstoppable. Like you just like you feel
Yeah,
that energy. Because I'm not gonna lie, there was a lot of hype around them. And it's just like I'm sitting there and I'm
their
like, they
offense was
shouldn't be winning these
gross.
games. What?
Like the hype was, they had a great offense. They were entertaining to watch because it was just back and forth, and they had, I think it was what, two crazy comebacks
Yeah,
because
they
they
had a
did
few.
it to Cal and then they did it to somebody else. I forget who it was, but I know they did it twice. They like, I think it was Pitt.
Was it Pitt? Did they lose to Georgia Tech?
Yes.
They did. Oh
But
yeah, no.
they had a game before the Cal game that was like they probably should have lost. It might have been Duke.
It was Virginia Tech.
I think Duke they struggled versus two. And then they
Virginia
like
Tech, you remember they won off of they called it incomplete in the end zone.
oh yes. Yeah, and that was in Miami too.
Yeah, that was in Miami,
Yes.
and Virginia Tech is Virginia Tech. Like they just weren't that good, and they should have lost honestly to Virginia Tech, but it was like one of those like
There's like a
indisputable
review and
calls.
stuff.
Yeah,
It was
it
weird.
looked like a touchdown, but like it was indisputable evidence, and they called it incomplete on the field, and so it was like it's just one of those things.
Yeah. But anyway, now that the NFL's over and we can talk draft and how to build a football team and college quarterbacks and all that, so we could do that for a while. But we've been doing pretty well betting some basketball. So if you haven't been tapping in, the basketball bets come out on the Twitter, which is at NGB_podcast, on X, I guess. I guess it is nowadays.
It
And
should be right below our faces.
yes. And we're 2 weeks in, and I think we're only up 3 units in the 2 weeks, which isn't great. Um, but we've been doing pretty good. We've had some tough beats, some lucky wins, and I've had a lot of fun doing the research, like in class on these bets, and then getting them out to you guys. Pretty much all of the bets, any college spread or NBA spread for the most part. um, is usually a 20% difference in the spread record, and we've been good on that. We've lost some parlays that we've just kind of for fun and some field bets thrown in there, but like 90% of the bets that we've thrown out are, or maybe 80%. We look at the spread records. A team is 20% better than another team against the spread, we put 1 unit on it. A team is 30% better, we put 1.5 units on it. And if a team's 40% better, it's 2 units. And I think we had one rare instance of a team was 50% better against the spread than their opponent, and we put 2.5 units on it. That one actually lost. That was Liberty, I believe, on Saturday. But that's the way it works. If I don't say anything, it's 1 unit. If it's more than 1 unit, I'll put that in the tweet. Yesterday was a great example of why unit sizing matters. We went 3-2, but we had two bets for 2 units, one bet for 1.5 units, and then two bets for 1 unit. And the two we lost were the 1 unit bets, and we won all of the multi-unit bets. So it worked out great. So really 3-2, not great, but we were plus 4 units on the day, which is fabulous off of just 5 bets. So be sure to check that out. And I think we even threw in some lacrosse bets last weekend, and we got
Yeah,
college baseball starting up, so it's getting there. And I believe should be dabbling in some positive EB bets um, by next week or so. Been doing just like mock betting. I've been doing not real plays, but I've been tracking it to see if it's going to work well or not. So
gonna be exciting. It's gonna be huge. Gonna bring some exciting new shit this off season. I say off season, acting like we're a fucking football podcast. We're not. We just don't really have another identity, I feel like. So
because we started during football
yeah,
season,
we
so
started during the football season, so this is kind of all new to us, but we're
yeah,
just we're sports bettors in general. We bet on fucking sports. Whatever's on, we're betting on it. It's just that we've mainly been discussing football because that's our
yeah.
that sport that we watch the most.
Personally, I love betting basketball more than football. Just there's such a bigger samples like in basketball, bigger samples. Like you go from betting football, it's like you get to like week 10, it's like, oh, this team's 7-3 against the spread. We'll bet them. It's like, oh, you got a solid number for that. But in basketball, 2 months in is 20 plus games. So um just a ton of numbers. But like NBA, we're at the All-Star break. We'll still have 30 games left. They're 50 games in, and we got great numbers to we know who's who, even with some of the crazy trades that went down. We know, what we're gonna get from, I guess like we know what we're gonna get from the Bulls. We know what we're gonna get from the Pelicans. We know how to bet against those teams. We know to bet on the Thunder. They're really good against the spread. We know to bet on Memphis on the road, or I bet on Memphis at home, stuff like that. So works
Yeah.
out works out well.
Yeah. I also like basketball player props better for some reason. I don't know why. I just like betting on the basketball player props a little bit more than football player props. I wish we could bet on college basketball player
This-
props, but shout out
Yes,
to New York
New
State.
York's an op.
Yeah, shout out to New York State.
And
Uh,
I think I'm convinced basketball players care about their stat line. That's why betting on basketball probably perhaps is so much better. And it's like a receiver can't go out of his way to get 100 yards, but you'll see dudes go out of their way to get that 10th rebound to secure a double double or triple double.
yeah,
We see it all the time.
yeah.
Like
No, I
LeBron James will do whatever he has to do to get the 10 points. He will not let that streak break.
yeah, no, literally, yeah. So I like betting on those player props a little bit better. Um, but yeah, no, it's gonna be interesting. The different bets we're about to start adding. Dabbling into plus EV will get super excited. That's the best type of betting is plus EV betting. Say the only thing that tops that is ARB betting, but that's a little harder to do, especially talking about it on a podcast is a little bit difficult because it's not,
We can't really tweet those out
yeah,
enough
exactly.
time.
Can't tweak an R about tweet an R about, my bad. But you can tweet out a plus EV bet. You could talk about, the scale in which it's going to be plus EV for. So, oh, that's cool to talk about. So that's exciting. Um, and it'll be a cool ad. So make sure you keep up with us on our Twitter. It's the one in the middle. It should be like right below that. So it's the one that says NGB_podcast. That's our Twitter. That's our everything handle. But we are most active on Twitter other than on here. So go check the Twitter when basically every day. Turn the notifications on so you know when Kyle's typing away on some absolute fire bets you got to pick up on.
And
And
sometimes it's really early in the morning. Can't lie.
depends. And like I gotta keep track. I gotta put the noties on actually. I don't have Twitter noties on, but I gotta put them on because I always miss it, and I'm like, oh shit. It's like 5 o'clock rolls around. I'm like, oh God, Kyle put his bets out. I gotta take a peep.
Yeah,
So
I'll put my bets out like 7 in the morning,
mhm.
just random times. Whenever I'm feeling it.
Hey, nothing's wrong with it as long as they're hitting. And they
Yeah,
expect. So. That's all that matters. So go check that shit out. We're gonna be pretty big on that during the off season. And then what's our plan for the uh most of the off season, Kyle?
Um, we don't really have a set date on when we're gonna get content out to you guys, but we're planning on, making stuff on Sundays and Wednesdays pretty much. So I guess around Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, Friday, expect to see some content. We plan on making some more just normal YouTube videos instead of just a full podcast episode. We're diving into more specific podcast topics where the podcast is more of based on the bets. So I guess going forward, we'll only pretty much have these podcasts to recap how the past week of betting has gone. So pay attention to the Twitter and then pay attention to the podcast if you missed it to see how it goes. If you're new here, just listen to the podcast, listen to how we've been doing well, and then that following week tail us, and hopefully it'll go well. And then once we get towards the spring, we'll get some baseball bets in there. College baseball should be interesting to get some of those bets out. We had some college lacrosse bets. Obviously, NBA, college basketball bets are out. We should dive into some hockey too soon. That's
I'd like to.
wrapping up. We got the world. Oh, I forget what it's called, but the four
The
teams from the
Four Nations, I think it's called.
yes, four nations. That's a really cool concept. But I've been honestly so tied up with watching basketball, especially with the trade deadline, just watching like everybody's reaction to the trades, that haven't paid any attention to hockey. And I'm a Penguins fan, and they've been such a letdown really the past 3 years. So, um, but we'll be tweeting out bets, and then the following week we'll be here to explain, I guess, why we bet them and how they did. So,
So
pretty
basically,
good.
it'll basically be like every week is a recap, kind of like today was for the Super Bowl. So we'll be doing that. And then we'll be focusing a lot more on like short form type of videos, not long podcasts. Those videos are going to be more planned out. They're going to be less free flowing, more we'll have a specific topic we're talking about and we'll hit our points on it. Or
More entertaining, I guess.
yeah, they'll be way more entertaining. It'll be less us just talking back and forth with each other, going over something random, or like the Super Bowl or game will be more. It'll be more straight to the point, more exciting to watch. It'll be more, like you could sit there, you could watch a video instead of sitting there and having a podcast on in the background type of thing. That's the goal for it, at least. So we got some ideas brewing on videos that we want to make. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing throughout the off season. If we do well with that, we'll try to find a way to continue that when we get back into the football season because I feel like football season is really heavy for us. We separate the college and the NFL, so we're doing 4 episodes a week normally, or that's what we were doing. So we kind of pump everything out and don't have as much time for everything else. Um, and then like you also have day-to-day life. We have normal lives outside of doing this, so it's kind of hard to, time it all up. So hopefully with football
But
winding down,
all it takes is one hot streak, and then there's no more normal life. You're just a professional sports bettor.
yeah,
So
that is all it takes. So
really hoping for that.
that should be some motivation for you guys.
Yeah,
Uh that's what motivates Kyle for sure, and it's what motivates us.
it is. It is.
So
I
we'll
make
get
sure
there.
to get my bets up. I'm not working at the moment because I'm in college. This nice shitty dorm room you see behind me. A lot of excitement going on. But this is my I guess it's supposed to be my income, and it's not always income, but definitely give it an attempt every day.
See, it's funny. Like Kyle and I overnight just switched roles. Like Kyle was the one that was like he was working, and I was like that college student that's just like sitting there rotting all day, like betting, just fucking degenning. And
Nothing
then
else to do.
yeah, and then Kyle immediately overnight he goes to school. I'm still in school, but I don't like I do an
Just
internship, and
get
so I sit
you
there.
get like a real internship. Or I was
Yeah,
just humming, it's like a
yeah, I got like a real
fake
internship
job.
and then I got to work on top of it. So it's just an absolute grind for me. And then, so like I was degenning back in the fall and now I'm sitting here like I don't even got time to place bets half days. So I got to figure out
Dude, I
like,
missed it. It's amazing. You go from having no free time and then you have free time to bet, and it's like, oh, how did I live without
yeah,
watching
exactly.
6 games of college basketball at night?
Exactly.
They
So
had a Patriot League on the other day, and it's like that's peak life when you're watching random like Lehigh play basketball at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday.
exactly, exactly.
Doesn't get better. It really don't.
So that's kind of what we got to look forward to for the next few months. So you guys all you know now what we're doing, what our mojo is. We'll talk about it again probably. But then you'll start to see those videos flow out and you'll be like, all right, word. Um, we'll also be focusing on, so we'll be trying to get some shorts and shit going. We tested that out a little bit. And then, like I said, busy schedules got in the way, so we couldn't get consistent. I think that's the hardest part about the shorts. We've been really good at being consistent with the podcast, minus our 1 10-day stretch we went on, but we've been very consistent with this. Now it's getting consistent with everything else on top of this. We just got
It'll be
consistent with Twitter too. So like Kyle was talking about, like the Twitter we're very consistent on now. This we're consistent on. We just got to get consistent on everything else. Get it all in full circle and we'll be good.
and we feel bad because you guys have showed a good amount of love to the shorts, so
Yeah, the shorts
we
do
definitely want
very
to get
well.
more
So
on.
we gotta start popping those out more, start putting a little bit more effort into those things and hopefully, and then just constantly changing everything. So we'll get that going for you guys. But I'm expecting a lot of improvement during this off season, and then once we get to next season, I mean even this off season, it's not like we're not going to focus on anything. Like we're jamming out basketball and whatnot, but basically just now we have the time to like test things out and try things. So that's really what we're going to do, I think.
Yeah.
Um, do you have anything else, Kyle?
That's all.
All right, that's all. So we will see you guys next time. All right. And until then, make sure you guys make some money. Make sure you go check out the Twitter and we'll see you guys next time.